Okay, we'll start over, or where we left off. So the idea is that our souls are eternal, and that we're here living an experience, one of many, that our souls have been on, a soul journey, you might say. And that we may have lived dozens or hundreds or thousands of other lifetimes. And they may have been here on planet Earth or other places, other planets, or as other kind of conscious beings or entities or things, whether it might be a mountain or a squirrel or a caveman or an alien. Could really be anything, or it could have been someone like a Native American a few hundred years ago. These are all experiences that have come through in sessions when someone goes into a trance-hypnotic state led by a regression practitioner. And these experiences might come through in other mediums where you might say, I think I've had a glimpse into a past life, maybe in a deep meditation. Maybe you've just always had a feeling that you were like the opposite sex in another life, and you led this fantastic life or this boring life. You may have just always had a hunch or an intuition that might reside somewhere inside of you, kind of like a cellular memory of a past experience that you just don't know where it comes from. And maybe that shines through you in some way, in the way that you act or live, that you identify with this thing that's seemingly not you, but it may be subconsciously you. So with the hypnosis practice, as a guide, I lead you into a trance state. So that's where the hypnosis comes in. And the trance state is when we alter the state of our brainwaves. So right now we might be in like a slight hypnotic state because you're all listening to me and I'm speaking in a certain tone, and I could be lulling you into a trance. So that's kind of what TV is. TV is programming. When you sit down and you watch the TV, you are in a trance hypnotic state and susceptible to being programmed. And you likely are, unless you're very conscious and aware of the information you're taking in. So I always try to turn the volume down when the commercials come on, because it's what we're opening ourselves up to. So we have to be very aware of who we're listening to, what we're listening to at all times. Whether it's music might put you into a hypnotic state, susceptible to being programmed. So be very conscious of the music you're listening to. Be very conscious of the programs you're watching, the TV you're watching, the YouTubes, the Instagram, whatever it is, because you're really feeding your subconscious state, and that is a program that you're running in the background of your life that you're not always conscious of. That's when you're kind of acting unconsciously. So what happens in a past life regression is usually someone will have something in their life that is troubling them. People don't usually go seek help from someone that's going to guide them into their past life just because their life is la-di-da and they're having a great time. Usually there's a reoccurring pattern that is blocking you from something in your life, whether it's you keep attracting a certain type of relationship, you can't seem to hold on to money, you don't know what your life's purpose is, so you are confused in a fog and don't really know how to answer these big life questions or challenges that you're running into. You might say, oh, I've had it. I'm going to go find out what happened in my past life, as crazy as that might seem. And what might happen is when enter that trance state, we're not just entering like a light trance. This is more of a deep trance where you're entering this state of mind that your brain is in right before you fall asleep at night. So you do this 2 times a day, right before you fall asleep at night and right after you wake up in the morning. If you can recall those moments, you're like half awake, half dreaming. You are semi-conscious of someone knocking at the door that alarmed you while you were drifting off into unicorn land. And you can kind of go in and out of it because someone knocked on the door and you got, your field of energy was knocked on, so you were aware. But you're not there very long. You're quickly into a delta state where you're fast asleep. But this state is a theta brainwave state, it's a deep trance state, and that's where, as a regressionist, I will lull you to sleep with some guided meditation, and you will start to have some sensations or visions of coming into, again, a past life maybe. So that might look like something different for everyone. And I can just give an example that really highlights what it might look like. So I might be working with a 60-year-old man who is waking up to this past life, and I'm asking him, what are you seeing? He's like, oh, I'm seeing a farm. I'm like, oh, what else do you see around the farm? Oh, there's a barn in the distance and a dirt road and blah, 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 whatever else you might see around a farm. I'm like, okay, look down at your feet. Tell me what you see. It's like, oh, it looks like I'm wearing dress shoes, and they're pink. And I'm also wearing a skirt. Like, oh, and does this body feel male or female? It feels female. And it feels like I'm 4 years old. And the man is clearly 60 years old, and he's having this experience of being a 4-year-old girl. And from that point, I will walk him through and ask him questions. What do you see here? What do you see there? And it's like the dream or the movie that he's seeing keeps on moving forward through different portions of that girl's life. And this information is coming from, I don't know where, the subconscious field, from his eternal soul that may have actually had this experience 300 years ago, because all the signs in the farmland show that, okay, there was no cars that existed here in that time, and whatever else. You get clues along the way to see like what time period might this be. And as it plays out, there'll be certain themes that come along, like the relationship the little girl had with her father, and maybe there was abuse, or maybe there was something else that was traumatic that kind of stayed with that soul. And we'll move the person through that life until that 4-year-old girl has moved all the way through her life in a 1 to 2 hour session till the day of that little girl's death. And on the day of that girl's death, and this is all what the man is seeing again and envisioning, I'm walking him through it step by step by step. On the day of the death, that girl, that 4-year-old girl that was now a 80-year-old woman, who's showed me her entire life, who she dated, who she married, the jobs she had, the kids she had, the feelings she had towards men, towards society, towards growing old. And then on the day of her death, she dies, maybe just of old age, maybe of a sickness. But you get to see where that soul goes on the other side of death. And once the body dies, the soul hangs out there for a second, and reflects on everything that happened in that life. And there is wisdom there. We're living these lives right now, and if we stop and reflect on, let's say, our childhood for a minute, we might be able to discern how we got to where we are right now and why we have some certain tendencies that we have. And the same thing will happen once we die. We will reflect on our entire life and see, what was that all about? And why did I do that? And maybe have the realization that you kind of chose all those moments throughout life to learn certain lessons about life and to carry forward with you, or download into the big computer mainframe that's collecting all the information about everyone's journey so that it can understand humanity and understand this conscious life experience. But more importantly, as individuals that are seeking this type of experience, you get to reflect on that subconscious program that you were carrying with you, and unknowingly sometimes, I think a lot of us, we are connected to our higher selves. We know what's going on. We know what programs we're running all the time, but we like to get in our own way. Our ego likes to step in and say, I'm going to continue eating that cake every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it feels good, until it doesn't. But we do it anyway, That's like our lower selves that are telling us to eat the cake. But if we really quiet down and we tap into our higher self, we know what's right for us and what's wrong for us. But this is like an in-your-face, wow, this was my subconscious program that I let myself run my entire life. And if I had the opportunity to see that earlier in life and understand that, I could let go of that program and now choose what type of life I want to live, not what type of life was pre-programmed in me, whether that's how we were raised as kids in our childhood, or how we experienced this past life that came up that you didn't even know was there. And I'm not here to say that past lives are real or not real, or dreams are real and we're having a multi-dimensional experience. I think I'm open to thinking it's an all possibility, but there are subconscious programs that we are running, and it would be really cool to be aware of it, and instead of being a victim of our lives and our programming, whether that's coming from our government, our TV, the propaganda, fear that's being instilled in us, purposely or not purposely, it doesn't really matter. We have the ability to take the power back to ourselves and choose how we want to live, choose what programs we want to run. And if you really got down to the nitty-gritty, or just the simple basics of any human being, the program that we all want to run is love. And often the subconscious programs that we are running are not rooted in love. And that's when we end up hurting ourselves in toxic relationships, whether that's to a human or to money or to our parents, to our family, to society, to the earth. There's a lot of toxicity in the world, and we can't blame ourselves necessarily. We have to be compassionate with ourselves and accepting, because we're all human and it's okay to be human, but it's good to be mindful and aware how we're showing up and how we're deciding to grow and move forward in life and be the masters of our own happiness and the masters of our own universe. So to me, finding this practice has really opened my eyes to the power of it and to the healing power of it. Just to get into some of the healing portions of it, not only are we healing that program, sometimes that program us to physical illness or mental illness. And these real physical illnesses are plaguing our health. That could be cancer or disease or any other health. It could be I'm prone to breaking my bones, or I'm prone to asthma attacks, or having allergies to every food allergen there is. There's usually, I'm not going to say 100%, but there's usually an underlying cause that's not rooted in that food. It's rooted in your belief system, where you are holding on to something that's not serving you, and it's showing up as a symptom in your body, because our bodies are these like hyper intelligent things that should be in perfect health all the time. That's the way they were designed. We are all like X-Men and Wolverine. Like, we get hurt, our bodies are designed to heal themselves, but they're not designed to harbor hate and resentment and fear and anxieties and stress. And when we are harboring all of those things, they show up as, over a long enough time period, disease. And so we can heal our own bodies by understanding where are our blocks, what subconscious programs am I holding on to, whether it's resenting my father for not showing up for me in the way that I wanted him to, or I thought he should, and so I'm holding hate for him for the rest of my life. That hate is going to manifest itself as something ugly in me, and that ugliness could be my energy, or it is energy, because that energy is going to get stored somewhere in my body, and it's going to show up as an illness or something. So yeah, there's huge power in healing in this practice of understanding our subconscious programs, and past life regression is one way to uncover some of the things that we don't know that we're running. The same as plant medicine, if you've used psilocybin or ayahuasca or any of these other powerful plant medicines, they tend to show you the things that you have been holding on to and been too scared to look at your entire life, and I've been stuffing down for 20 years until you don't have a choice, because the plants are going to do what the plants are going to do, which is really cool. But you can also do that with past life regression without using any plants or substances. So I think they're all beautiful ways to heal. I've found this modality to be really interesting for me, and that's a lot of what past life regression hypnosis is. I could talk about it for hours, but I'd like to maybe just open it up to any questions that anybody has.
So I love how the going through the whole life, like, what would you say, if you don't mind me asking, because I could talk about it forever too, what's like the biggest like realization or something that you want to share that you had? Because a lot of people have those experiences of like, oh, I realized, like my dust allergy, or like, oh, I realized that was it, and like I still take my inhaler because I'm still like, I don't know if I have it, I don't know, you know. Yeah. But like I feel like it's lifted like from that journey. So like, is there something that you, or maybe someone else that you've experienced, that they're like, oh, I have this pain in my head, and then it was really just someone like
yeah. So a fascinating one. This was, and it's still new to me. I've had about 30 clients so far, and I just got into it really fast because it was just hyper interesting to me. So I just haven't been able to stop doing it, which is great. But my sixth client, the first five were all like friends. I was like, I gotta practice on some friends first. And then, and it worked. It was great. I was like, wow, this is working. I was blown away. So then the sixth one, they found me randomly online through a portal that you could find myself listed as a practitioner through the training that I did, which is called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, designed by Dolores Cannon, if you've heard of her. Absolutely incredible woman. But besides that, I'm on the website as a practitioner, and I was listed as an intern until my 25th session. So she found me as an intern because interns are supposed to offer their services for free. And she was like, oh, I got huge problems, and I have really big money issues, and I need some free help. And so she called me. I was like, wow, someone called me off the internet. That's just super cool. And I talked to her for maybe 30 or 40 minutes on the phone, and there wasn't one positive thing that came out of her voice, out of her mouth. She was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. Her family hates her. She hasn't been able to hold down a job. Her education, just endless woes me's, right? And then I'm like, okay, yeah, this is perfect. We're gonna do it. And I hung up the phone. I was like, oh my God, this just got really real. Like, there's real people out there with real problems, and I'm telling them I can help them. And yeah, so I got excited, but also really nervous. So I called some friends to just ask for inspiration that are in the field. And they're like, this is great, it's great. And what Dolores Cannon would always say is like, because there is a greater subconscious kind of always at play, that I'm never gonna get work that I can't handle, and the person's never gonna show up for anything that they can't handle, so it's all perfect. I'm gonna get the perfect thing that I need in that moment, and my clients can get the perfect thing that they need in the moment, because it's the subconscious field that's always at play, balancing everything out, keeping an eye on all of us, whether you want to call it God or universe or subconscious. It's kind of all the same. It's all mystical and magical and beautiful. But so she shows up to my place where I'm doing the work, and she gives me the whole story again, but now eye to eye, and it's even deeper. And she talks about it for 2 hours, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? But stay calm, stay cool, just keep listening. And then I listen to the whole story, and we get into the hypnosis portion, because the first portion is always an interview, and the interview can take as long as the client needs, and we'll just talk about everything from the moment you were born till now, all your relationships, all your life, all your woes and needs, all your whatevers. And then once we've kind of exhausted that is when we go into, well, what do you want to get out of this? And for her biggest thing was, I'd recently been diagnosed with breast cancer, and it's scaring the shit out of me. And so we go in, and her past life story wasn't a past life, but it was her childhood. And all these events from her childhood came up, and a lot of them were abuse from her parents, from her family, sexual abuse, being teased in school, sexually abused in school, whether it was verbally or other things. And then moving on through her life, she goes and has a kid. She has one son, and her son's now grown up. She's like in her 60s. Her son is in his mid-20s. I think he's married. He moved to Australia and doesn't talk to her anymore. And she's like, why doesn't my only son talk to me? I don't get it. Like, she's really confused and upset about her son that won't talk to her. So she's like resenting her son for not loving her the way she thinks she deserves to be loved. And in the session, she's realizing that, oh my God, I breastfed my son for 2, 3, however many years of her life, and he owes love to me. And now she's realizing she's manifesting this breast cancer because of the hurt that she feels that she can't let go of. And she comes to the realization that I need to let my son go. Like, this is his life to live. Like, me holding on to this anger. And before going into it, she's like, tell me this isn't all going to come back down to self-love, self-love. and she goes into it, she's like, I just need to love myself more. I need to, right? Oh my God, this is so cool. She's like having all these revelations. She's so excited about it. And she comes to all the conclusions on her own, you know? Like, I don't do anything except ask the questions. And so that's probably one of the coolest things about the practice that I find for myself is that people aren't coming to me and I'm telling them what I think is wrong with them. Because I can do that too. But they're telling themselves what's wrong with them, and they're answering all of their own questions because they have the power. So how empowering is that when you answer all of your own life's questions, you don't have to go to somebody for answers, and it's all recorded on audio, so you get to go back and listen to it all. So I thought that was probably one of the really cool ones that I had early on. Yeah, that was powerful. And I walked away from that thinking, wow, this is so cool to witness that transformation in that amount of time, and to see her walking out of my house glowing versus coming into the house like just mad at the world and herself, and having some answers about where her hurt and sickness is coming from. Yeah.
Do you have any, do you keep in contact with your clients that you work with?
Yeah, I'll ask them if they want to reach out to me to send me updates. You know, it's I'll bug them all in 6 months and see where they are, but it's really up to them to reach back out to me. This is supposed to be like a one and done. This isn't going to your therapist every week or every 2 weeks to like talk about the same thing over and over and over again. This is like, let's discuss what all of your life's problems is, and you are going to answer all of them right here, right now, and you have the power to heal yourself in this one session, or give yourself the tools to do it yourself. Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to be in touch with all of them, but it's really up to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know how her breast cancer is going.
I know. I did reach back out to her. I didn't hear back. Yeah. I asked her for hey, it'd be really cool to have a testimonial.
Yeah.
Because I was asking for a lot of testimonials in the beginning, but yeah, I don't know where she is now.
I'm sure she's doing good.
Yeah, if she's listening to her audio, yeah.
Yeah.
Go back and re-listen to your audio.
When I went back and listened to the audio, it was like a couple weeks later, and I got so many more downloads from the audio listening a second time that I just completely did not even experience the first time.
Because it's like a dream. You wake up from a dream, and right after you wake up, you're like, oh, that was a really cool dream, or that was a really scary dream. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, wait a second, I only remember one thing from that dream. And then the day later, you're like, what did I dream about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did it with him, and like 2 weeks later, I was like, oh, I should go listen to it, and I did, and then it was just like, things came up, like even things that we didn't talk about in the recording, but because I heard the recording, I was then receiving download about it, so it was just like a double, it was so packed of sustenance. And then my roommate went to do it with him, she loved it, so great.
Yeah. So I'm available, whenever you want. Also, I am doing a group past life regression session next Friday at the Sanctuary in Venice, and that's like less of a deep one-on-one work. It's more of a journey to have a couple different experiences of seeing what it's like to let your mind go to a past life, maybe let your mind go to see who your spirit guide is, or let your mind go to see what a future life might look like. So that's group work that I'll be doing next Friday.
Have you had anyone basically get in their own head where they don't get into place, or I'm the type of person who gets in my own head?
Yeah, I actually did one this morning, and it went that way. She was like, and at the end of it, she was like, I just can't do it. And she was really upset with herself. And it's because we have really big egos and control issues. You know, it's it's really hard for some people to let go, and it's okay. It's not okay. It's okay to be that way, and it's okay to accept ourselves however we are, whenever we are, because we're all really on our own journeys, and we can't compare ourselves to anybody except ourselves, because I think what we're all here experiencing right now is what we've all asked for, because we are learning the lessons that we need to learn along the way. And you can't learn lessons unless you've exposed yourself to the experiences that you are currently having. And so when you are aware of that, you can be more accepting of where you are right now, and have compassion, and maybe not be so hard on ourselves. It's really easy to get hard on yourselves and wish we were different or smarter or wealthier or prettier or whatever. But I think we've all really chosen our paths and our families and our communities and our friends and our circumstances and our health, so that we can learn something. And when we really lean into whatever it is that we are experiencing and learning and accept it, it then becomes our gift. And then we can share our gifts and turn that lemon into lemonade, because we were only looking at it from one perspective. We didn't know that whatever that experience was that was causing us so much pain was actually going to be turned into gold for yourself and others. So, really take a moment to reflect on where you are and how to change your perspective if you are suffering, and if you are experiencing something that you feel like you shouldn't be, or if you are speaking negatively about yourself. It's really just a matter of perspective most of the time, because from the outside looking in, or from someone else's perspective, you are a god. You are incredible. You are the most talented, the most charismatic, the most social, and we're thinking like, oh my god, I'm such an introvert and I can't talk to anybody. It's like, wait a second, I'm not experiencing you that ever. It's all in your head. I just forgot what the question was and how I ended up there. But yeah.
I'd love to hear you reflect on the efficacy or the experience of a different modality like mushrooms or ayahuasca as opposed to hypnosis. Because I've done ayahuasca before, it was crazy, and I've heard of past life regressions. It sounded absurd to me. But after my experience on ayahuasca, I started to understand it. I do also feel like I see people might be addicted to that tripping. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, and maybe comparing it to doing something like hypnosis where you're in a more sober state.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think everything that you go into, whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or past life regression, there's so much in the intention that you're going in with, and the questions that you're going in with. And I know that with this past life regression, when I ask people to, when people are planning to come see me, I have them write down a list of 10 or 20 questions that they want to have answered, and it's very specific. And because it's such a kind of controlled in some way, because I'm there helping control the environment and the questions, we get to pinpoint and be really detail-oriented about what questions we're asking and answering, and we're in a sober enough state to really articulate what it is that's coming forward, versus with the mushrooms or ayahuasca, we might just be like, this is so overwhelming and overpowering, and like, what were my intentions? And like, I don't even know what I'm seeing, and so colorful and crazy, and like, wow, it feels so good or weird or scary. It's like, and then it takes weeks or years to process whatever just happened, because you don't even really know. But you also go into it with a very specific intention, like, I'm here to heal my father wounds with ayahuasca or mushrooms. And I think the plants are there to serve you the same way as the subconscious field is there to serve you in the past life regression. So really, it's so important to be aware of what our intentions are, the mushroom ceremonies and ayahuasca with just like, just see what happens, you know, like, and then you just get whatever happens. And usually there's healing in it, it's beautiful, but if you really want to capture an answer to your burning desires or your health issues or your relationships, I think it's a beautiful, the positive regression is a really powerful way to pinpoint it with someone that's really there to help guide you and make sure the questions get asked, because I'm not letting you leave until I ask all your questions versus you going on your own journey and trying to be conscious and aware. Yeah, if that helps. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know how to word it, but there's a difference between being aware, like cognitively, of like what you need to do, but it seems like you need to tune into your inner side more often, or there, because you know what you need to do, but can't get there. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. There's knowing versus doing and then achieving and then embodying are all very different. And how do you break through and get there is a great question. I mean, action, taking any action is always better than no action. Knowing is what they say is half the battle. So knowing you're 50% of the way there. Holding on to intention and the understanding of what it is, where it is that you are trying to go, is probably another 25%. And then trust and faith, I think, is another 15%. I think you're only left with 5% of the work. But I guess that would be my answer, is to how to change your programming, I'm saying. Yeah. Writing, journaling, affirmations, you know, like dream boarding, vision boarding, like holding something in your mind's eye that you want to achieve is gonna help create and manifest. So any manifestation tools and techniques. Imagination, yeah. Did you have something?
Yeah, I feel like something that's been working really well for me, because I was struggling with like addiction for a long time, and I was like, I know I don't want to do it, but like, why do I keep doing it?
Yeah.
You know? And what's really helped me is listening to my own voice. Like, I recorded my own voice, speaking the person I want to be, like the characteristics I want to experience and stuff, as if it's already happening. And I listen to it right before bed, whenever we're in that hypnotic state, right when I wake up. First thing in the morning, first thing at night. And that's like reprogramming your subconscious. And that's been huge for me recently.
That's beautiful, yeah.
That's a really, with your own, because there's some you can find on YouTube, which I was doing before,
Yeah, but that's their voice.
but that's a different voice. Yeah, so doing it with your own voice is like to
Not being
tell
programmed by a random male on YouTube.
Yeah.
He's a male voice. Yeah, thank you. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking so she can share that.
Yeah, I think using your voice too and sharing your experience, you know, like not keeping it all to yourself, because we are a collective. You know, when we are all here to work together cooperatively and symbiotically, and the more we're sharing our journeys and our paths and owning them and being accountable to them, the more help you're going to get, and the more you're giving the opportunity for people to show up for you and to be seen, and letting other people feel safe to be seen as themselves. So I think there's really a lot of power in being human, not being afraid to be human, and being authentic, and asking for help where we need help, or just sharing our stories along the way. So using your voice, because then you get to hear yourself again, the same way as Katie was saying. Use our voice. We're all here in this beautiful community to support each other. Everyone's on a journey, everyone's unique, and I think it's so special to be able to share that and allow people to help or just to be seen, and to know that there's like trust and
You see that?
a little floaty.
Yeah, I caught him.
Nice. He was just here to hang out. I don't know. know how much time I've gone or how much time I've left. And you don't know what time it is? Oh, look, I went over 7 minutes. I don't know who's next. I'm happy to hand the mic over. Thank you all so much for listening to me ramble for a half hour. I really appreciate your interest.